Let's talk for a minute about beach erosion.
Beach erosion.
You and I have talked about it offline. You have a position, which I think you should state here, if you would, about what you feel about any kind of sort of beach preservation effort.
Sure.
Let me just
go ahead.
One context on that.
Yep.
What happens in the context of your view if significant public work such as the wastewater treatment plant or even potentially the runway or the safety areas of the runway at the airport are threatened by erosion?
I think we're going to have to deal with it. I'm not sure the answer. Let's step back. I do start out by feeling that the island ought to live with our oceans and not against them, all right? I think people come to Nantucket for lots of different reasons, but a major one is that our beaches are wide open. We always used to be proud that we're different from the Vineyard, and you used to be able to, long ago, drive your car around the island, or you had a rock run, you could run around the island. So I'm in favor of our beach retaining their natural state as long as possible. When you get to specifics and people have said, gee, Mr. Atherton, that's interesting, what about the jetties? Well, I think the harbor is clearly a different situation. It's our lifeline, and I understand the jetties, and I understand bulkheads in the harbor, okay? And I'm not fighting those in any way, Dan. I think that's a different situation. I think the airport runway is something that the commission and the town are going to have to deal with, and there may be a number of options, I don't know. If the only option at some point is to consider hard armoring of Nobadir Beach, and hard armoring almost inevitably means the beach in front of it will disappear, then the community is going to have to deal with that. But I think that's different than what's happening on below the bluff. I clearly think that's different. And the wastewater treatment facility, I think there may be lots of options there. You think about the Surfside plant, one of the things that's been talked about off and on over the years and is really coming back again is a pipe going out into the ocean. So we may find that the sewer beds themselves aren't necessary for the long term. Don't know how the water that comes out of the plant now is not quite drinkable, but it's almost drinkable, or some people say it is. So if that water then doesn't have to go to the settling beds, it can go out into the ocean, you have a very different configuration. So there might be lots of solutions, Dan.
The other issue, just quickly, that a number of people bring up from time to time in various contexts is the whole role of the town in terms of enforcement of its bylaws, and in various contexts, whether it be bicycle helmets on one hand, or zoning or HDC rules and so forth. And the perception is that the town is pretty lax or doesn't do that at all. Is this an issue that you think needs to be addressed, or?
I do hear that periodically, and usually it comes up over a specific event. Often it's maybe a neighborhood issue where people in a neighborhood are concerned about what's happening development-wise or maintenance-wise up and down their streets. And I think one of the things we do have to find a way to accommodate those kinds of concerns or questions without making the individuals who bring them forward feel they're open and pressured in any way. It's like, as I understand, the zoning enforcement officer, which is only a part of this issue, has liked to receive complaints in writing. I think the planning director has indicated they will accept anonymous complaints, and I think people are more willing to bring them forward if that's the case, and I think that can be helpful. It doesn't mean they're all going to be right, and you can end up with frivolous complaints, so you have to use some judgment and sort them out. We're growing from a community where 20 years ago a lot of this wasn't important, and we could work things out in the police in terms of traffic, or the town in terms of infringements on things that grow into the streets and all that kind of thing, could be handled somewhat informally. It's not quite the case anymore. And the town, for example, has asked the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee to help it with a new process to deal with encroachments, because it's taken so long under the current process. One thought is to make, to advise people if they're encroaching, and they won't get any more permits from the town if they don't fix it up. So there are some steps we may have to take today that we didn't have to take years ago, Dan.
Rick Atherton, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, thank you.
Well,
always a pleasure to see you and talk to you.
Happy to be with you, and we can continue these offline again anytime you'd like.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.